J.T. Crowley is Talking Books. On the show, you'll hear from emerging talent and seasoned veterans from around the world. They'll give you their take on the writing process and how to create the secret sauce of page-turning deliciousness. Let's get into that magical mixture of the art and science of creativity. Here's J.T. Crowley, author of The Smart Kids, and your podcast host.
Hello, everyone. I'm J.T. Crowley, and I'm extremely delighted to welcome on my show today Dr. Jack Tan Sok Kuan to talk about his book, My Mother's Love, Growing My Life from Zero to Life Success Like Dr. Jack Tan. Dr. Tan was born in Singapore in the 1950s, where he has primarily lived for most of his life. And it's from Singapore that he talks to us today. Dr. Tan has worked primarily in the financial world and is presently the CEO of his own asset management company. His expertise in the financial corporate world has been called upon by numerous people working in that sector, as well as close governments in and around Asia. He resides, as I said, in Singapore. He's married, and he runs every day to keep fit, everybody. And he has two sons. One of them has followed him into the career of finance as an accountant. The other son is in medical profession, and their wives follow their own distinguished careers. And his wife is very supportive of all that he's done in the past and what he does today. So, without further ado, everybody, let's invite Dr. Tan onto the show to talk about himself and his book. Dr. Jack Tan, come and join me.
Yes, thank you, John. I'm in.
Yeah, you are very welcome. It's a great pleasure to talk to you. And when I've looked at your book, I thought you've got some fascinating concepts, ideas. And I thought, I think we need to get into this book to find out what you're talking about.
Yes.
So, Dr. Tan, some people might see this book as a kind of autobiography of your own life, a rags to riches story. You were born to hard-working, industrious parents who came from humble backgrounds, particularly your mother, who came from China. This book really is, what I see of it, is a promise you made to them, especially your mother, not to have the lifestyle she had in their early years, but to seek and fulfill a more prosperous lifestyle. And how you went about accomplishing that promise, isn't it?
Yes, it is a lot of hard work, your own commitment to yourself. If we have some commitment and we don't do it, we are our greatest enemy. You will not be successful. I grew up in that first day. I born on 1st January that year. That year happened to be, in the end, the defense minister declared it. That year is a national service year for all the mere citizens. So we got to do, started from part-time service, then full-time after we completed our tertiary education. And that was a challenge because I born with diarrhea at birth. And that itself, as a baby, I don't know what happened. But my mother, when they told me, I cried like hell. She was worried, don't know what happened. So in the end, doctor investigate. Then doctor said that diarrhea basically has some interrelationship to my mother's overworking. So I started my preface right on the point. My mother was overworking then quote unquote with a citation. So in itself, the citation itself is from different group of people. My mom is a devoted ladies in our living environment. In my days, too bad, the environment was quite bad. A lot of uneducated boys living a village next to mine. They are all gangsters, but our government control them very tight. So in the end, government offers some of them go to army to be a regular non-commissioner officer because they don't have qualification. So we was enlisted into serving our national service as a recruits. Very tough. They abuse their authority, and those I would want to disclose because if I do have people support and they want to read, I will write a book on my 2.5 years in national service. You must learn how to protect yourself and protect the country. It's a contribution to the country. Likewise, when I was writing this book, it was supported by one banker, one chartered accountant. He said, you must finish it. You have been surveyed in Beijing on 15 November 2019. You were invited by Tsinghua University. They didn't even know you, but they invited you because they checked my profile on LinkedIn platform, and they saw, they decided to get me. So
your childhood, Dr. Tan, was quite interesting because, yes, you had to go to school, but at the same time, when you came after school, yes, you had to go and work on the wet markets, with your parents, because that's how life was back in those days, wasn't it? You had to balance school life and work life.
I don't work in the wet market. We are the wholesaler.
All right.
So the spring sprouts processors, it takes about 4 days. And then you got to make sure water are clean, otherwise everything is gone. So the process was very demanding, and I go to work and go to try to memorize everything without a book. So I created a method that's suitable for myself, determination, set a goal, and then without books, try to memorize what you learn from school. So actually, it enhances my memory.
I understand that one. I really do. This book is about the two objectives you set out to be the backbone of your life, underpinned by 9 principles. Can you briefly tell us what those 2 objectives are, where, and
there's
why
only
are they
one
so
goal.
fundamental to your life?
Yeah, there's only one goal. Goal is quantitative. Then with that goal, you attach 2 qualitative. The quantitative is you must complete your tertiary education. In the end, work for a doctorate degree from a good university. I finished my MBA when I was in banking, was very busy, but I finished the banking. Surprising, I got the MBA from the University of Hull, that's in UK, with full distinction, 12 subjects, all distinction, including the master's thesis. The supervisor professor praised me a lot. I said, no need praising. I'm just doing my job to acquire the knowledge. So acquiring knowledge, in this case, you need determination. So that goal is you be a very determined person. Never say give up. Then the two objectives is attached to it. One, I want to save as much as I can, but my dream career is banking and finance. So that was a determination that I want to do. Then followed by the rest of all together, add up together, 9 life principles. That
I'm going
was
to come to them later.
Yeah, that was actually trying to train me to achieve the goal. And when I say zero, meaning I have nothing.
No, you set out with nothing. That's why I say to people here, it's a little bit of a rags to riches story, this book is, everybody.
Yes.
Now, the cover is quite interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it's very poignant. It's beautiful. It's of a butterfly. But the butterfly image is a nod to the butterfly cocoon concept you talk about in your book, in chapter 2.
Yes.
Can you quickly enlighten everybody as to what this concept is and why it was so relevant to you yourself in your life?
All right. I have a balcony at the gate, enter into my house, and there's a space I put a lot of plants. And then every Chinese New Year, I buy those plants that actually is small little oranges kind of plant. Then butterfly in the end will all come here to lay eggs. Then in the process, I see, the eggs transform into a cocoon. Then I count the cocoon will take about 2 weeks. There was one incident. I felt very sorry. The cocoon came out as a butterfly, but I think due to that, I suppose the development wasn't 100% perfect. So it was deformed in a way that the butterfly came out, but the wing, one of the wing affected. So the butterfly could not fly. That is a risk. So that from there, I think my life is like a butterfly. I was born with diarrhea, and my mom was so worried. What happened? So in the end, after the investigations, doctors are very committed. That's why my second son wanted to study medicine. I let him go. I said, go ahead, because you need to contribute. I supported him. Then the wife is also a doctor, but is psychiatry. So I said, all of you set a very good platform for your children. Education and educate them. Teach them in 2 languages. I myself speak 2 languages.
And they are?
They are, the little problem is the tendencies, they speak more English than Mandarin. They are not like this Happy Rogers, Jim Rogers' children. He's American, relocation from New York to Singapore in 2007, 1 year before the crisis. So he settled down, sent the daughter to the local school, very famous Nanyang Girls' School. So today, she speaks perfect 2 languages. I think her Mandarin is better than mine. So that is the process of transforming a life.
Yes.
So Jim Rogers was very smart. He was the odd one out. He was the only American believe in Putonghua or Mandarin is a future commodity. He wanted the 2 daughters to learn that. Then the 2 daughters now speaks very well.
And that, I suppose, is where you get the idea of the butterfly cocoon, and it morphs into the beautiful butterfly as it transforms. So you've got your tertiary education, that's the basic, that's the cocoon, and then you've got to get that right to form a beautiful butterfly life. And that's why the butterfly is on the front cover.
Yes, correct.
We've talked about the objectives, we've talked about the cover, why it was so poignant, because it's all relevant. And as I said earlier, these objectives were underpinned by 9 principles.
Yes.
And each one of these principles forms one of the 9 chapters in the book, everybody.
Correct.
And when you look at this book, the chapters start off with stating what that principle is. It then goes, Dr. Chan then takes it on to what the theory, the thinking behind that principle was. And at the end, in some of the chapters, he either summarizes or gives an overview, or on some chapters, he actually lists the achievements that he's done at the very ending. Why did you set these chapters out in that fashion?
All right, because it is a whole concept, not misconception, whole concept of a boy born in a not rich family and got to help parents to support the business. And every day I got to spend 4 to 5 hours. So you just imagine 4 to 5 hours. I cannot read books, I cannot practice. So what I told you earlier is I use memorizing method. So while I was washing, cleaning the spring sprout to make sure they're okay, very clean, in the process, it's about 4 to 5 hours. I use that 4 to 5 hours. That is called the scarcity of resources, time resources, to sort of support me from lacking of time. So I found a solution, and a solution lead to all those principles by chapters. By the end of it, I offer a takeaway. It's called asset and liability management model. But theoretically speaking, you really need to have that. But practically speaking, how do you do it? I use in the end, every year I come up with 1 goal, 2 objective. So that itself, I put them all into a photo album. So I call it resolution photo album.
I'm coming to that.
Yeah, I did not know it's already 50 years. So I said, goodness me, that determination is called not a, if you don't have a persistency, belief, or you're committed, then you will fail. So I will, in the whole process, every chapter, by the end of it, conclusion lead to next chapter. So they are connected. They are not separated.
Indeed. They are indeed. It's very cleverly done, everybody.
Yeah, I purposely say conclusion, then this conclusion, you achieve this, lead to next chapter, then you will continue to establish your character, and your endurance element will come in. But I don't talk about motivation, because motivation is no need to say you got to be motivated to do all that. So that book is not about motivation. However, you see, the action I have in itself is, if this guy, Dr. Tan, is not motivated, he won't be today like that. And I show all this in my model, and my 2 sons take me as a role model. That's why they achieve very well. I'm very happy for them.
So yeah, you touched on this, and everybody, Dr. Tan talks about throughout the book, his life resolution album. Was this your kind of reference document as a means of checking that you are achieving the measures you set yourself out, the targets that you set for yourself?
Every year, I use PowerPoint. I summarize everything, then main point put in PowerPoint. What is the expected results? So every 3 months, that means every quarter, I wouldn't say set it there, you want to slot in the photo album, don't see, no. Every 3 months I will check, there's a gap, how to find remedy action. So in the end, I have remedial action to overcome the gap. So that itself is actually managing the gap. So every quarter I will check. Then if it's too far away from the goal, then the resolution will come in. I got to modify the resolution. Supposing if investment, why I didn't achieve 10%, what's wrong? Then I mentioned Warren Buffett. Remember?
You do. He's mentioned in the book several times.
Yeah, several times. Yeah, right. And I also mentioned Bill Gates.
You do.
These are successful people. I look at them. I have their book. Then I modify them to suit my own environment. Then in Singapore, day one, I believe in our first Prime Minister, Lee Kuan Yew, the late Lee Kuan Yew. He wrote many books. I believe in study hard and to be a bilingual person. So really, I was able to speak 2 languages and write in 2 languages.
Because the book is available. Yes. It's in English and it's in Mandarin.
In Mandarin. Mandarin, I aim for about 1.8 billion people in the world.
China,
China is one of them, and all other Southeast Asia, Indonesia, many of them only read Chinese.
Yes.
So therefore, I got to cater for them. Yeah.
Not Mandalay. That's another place.
Yeah. So in itself.
That was a Freudian slip.
Yeah. In itself, the process was very challenging. Every chapter, when I finish, my tears drop. I cannot control my tears. The tears will just automatically come down. It's so emotional. In itself, I write.
If you don't write emotionally, it's not going to come across in your book.
Yes.
You have to put feelings into it.
Yes. That's why I also keep something for people to guess. I only say I was born 1st January that year. So
I know. What year?
I create a curiosity for most of the people, but by the end of it, I only use indirect way that our Defense Minister, Dr. Goh Keng Swee, decided that year is the national service.
Good.
People. So obviously we also suffer, but that suffer take to extreme. Everything there's a positive and negative. I take the positive side.
I want to move on here a little bit, and you've mentioned the word positive. When I look at your book, you talk about loneliness quite a bit in your book. Are you talking about loneliness in a specific manner here, like in isolation, or are you bringing in here depression, mental health, underlying issues, loneliness banner? Is this something you've personally experienced, or you give the impression in the book that the way to deal with this issue is to surround yourself with positive people, positive attitudes, avoid negativity? Is this you?
Yes, this is me. This is me. I told you the surrounding area, a lot of gangsters in those days. I do not want to mingle with them. So I only mingle with those people who wanted to study. I will share with them. Then a lot of encouragement is what I call self-discipline. If you don't have self-discipline, you will not succeed in the end. And you want to have pinnacle of success, very difficult. But I did it. That's why I mentioned that.
I want to, you mentioned something here about success. Success, Dr. Tan, for me, comes in many guises. One person's measure of success is different, or quite different, to somebody else's.
Yes.
So for somebody, some person's success might be financially. For other people, it might be emotional. It might be for other people having good health, all sorts of reasons.
Yes.
Is success for you measured in financial success, or is it a combination of things? Health, family as well?
It's combination of holistically that money is not everything, but health decide your future. Then I can write strong brain. If my brain cells working very well, meaning I'm healthy. So if I don't exercise my brain cells, then I'm not giving exercising opportunity to my brain. So
and he runs every day, everybody.
Oh yeah.
He runs every day.
5 kilometers.
5 kilometers. There you go.
Yeah.
I think you wrote this book almost as a personal touch to your late mother. And you mention in the book the demise of your mother, with dementia. And it was something that you and your sisters initially failed to pick up upon. And that it was your younger brother who pointed out the situation.
Yes.
And I get the feeling that you talk about this in the book because you want to remind people, yes, because you were so busy dealing with your own life, dealing with finances, dealing with that, you didn't see this. And I think you've put this in the book to remind people work-life balance. Am I right?
Yes. I started with work-life balance because taking my mother as an example, she overworked. Obviously, those days she was young, about 30 years old, but she's very devoted. That's why I take her as my role model. Then eventually I see, we cannot be our own enemy. We got to keep ourselves fit, positively, develop a positive attitude. Otherwise, you can't achieve. That's why I set a goal only. The goal is successful in education. Then what are the objectives? Objective is going to financial services, banking and finance area. And then your income will be, you got to spend less on the income. Similar benchmark on Warren Buffett. He said, spend below your income. But nobody...
Oh, yeah. And I get also, your mother taught you that as well, didn't she?
Yes.
And your father?
Yes.
They both
My
did.
father, both of them are very hardworking.
Yes.
But they did not know how to do leveraging because we were not so rich. So today, I try to do some networking. That's why people find my name in LinkedIn platform, and Tsinghua University professor can come and find me. You are the only one We searched through 4,000 over people. We decided to be on you. So I don't reject people. So I went. So that led me to write this book. It was because that invitation. Then at Beijing International Airport, a group of young students doing survey, they asked me, loneliness and success.
Yeah. You know, when you go and you go and give talks about what you've done in your life, don't you?
I can share with people on that.
Yeah. And this is what this book is about, everybody. Dr. Tan, where can people get your book? Where they can go and get it? Where can they go and read about it?
All right. The book, once it's in the market, they can get it from Amazon. They can get it from Bartrade publisher. And they are trying to do the distribution, leave it to different locations, bookshops, huge one. I say, I'm just trying to share this one with people. Nobody will want to share their things because success, they say, belongs to me. Why should I share with you? But to me, I share everything with people. It's totally transparent. And I survive. I thank God for keeping my life. You just imagine in the 50s, you suffer diarrhea, born first day. Although you are so generous, everybody on 1st January having holiday, relaxing themselves. But I suffer, but I don't know why. So it could be God's blessing along the way with hurdles for me to clear. And then I become very fit.
Good. Dr. Jack Tan, it's been a huge pleasure talking to you about your book. And as I said, everybody, it's a kind of an autobiography of his like rags to riches story of how he's achieved coming from a very humble background to where he is today, being a CEO of his own asset management company. And the book sets out how he's done it. And his main target in life was set out by 2 objectives. And it's all underpinned by the 9 principles. And each chapter in this book talks about those 9 principles in a set fashion. He states the principle, he explains the principle, and then he summarizes it at the end. And this is what this book is about. But it's a promise. This lifestyle of his is a promise that he made to his parents, particularly his mother, not to have the same lifestyle as they had, to have a different lifestyle, and to pass that lifestyle on to his own family in the future. So it leaves me to say, thank you so much, Dr. Tan. And go and have a look at his book, everybody. So Dr. Jack Tan Sok Kuan, thank you so much for coming on my show. And I would just like to thank also Julius Artwell of Partridge Publishing for putting us in contact and arranging this interview. It's been a huge pleasure. Thank you, Julius. Well, as I say at the end of each week, when I do the podcast, I'm JT Crowley. Thanks for listening, watching, wherever you're in the world. Stay safe. Until next time.